I'm Audrey Hayes, 30, a legal consultant. 10 days before Christmas, I was ready to go home. Then, my mother, Carol, texted me. "Don't come for Christmas," it read. My brother, Jake, quickly added, "Pretend we don't know you. Why would my family, right before the biggest holiday of the year, suddenly decide I was invisible?" The shocking truth about their rejection runs deeper than you can imagine. I thought we were the perfect, quaint Vermont family, Dad David, the steady accountant, and Mom Carol, the sweet teacher. We looked like a postcard. But the picture was only perfect if you weren't looking too closely at me. The truth is, within that perfect family frame, I was always the blurred background. How exactly was I the outsider to my own parents? I was always the side character in the family drama, while my older brother, Jake, the charming sales manager, was the star. He was the golden child, the one Dad boasted about, the one Mom excused. I was the responsible one, the legal consultant who paid the bills and asked no questions. My achievements, like managing a successful charity foundation, were treated as background noise. They'd quickly pivot conversations back to Jake's next promotion or car purchase. I realized early on that my role was simple: be quiet, be useful, and be an outsider. The thing about being the family outsider is that you eventually start looking for your own purpose outside their approval. What passion did I pursue to validate myself, and why did my family reject it? I built my career outside their orbit, legal consultant by day, foundation manager by night. I found purpose in giving back, believing that helping others defined my true worth. I thought if I succeeded in being genuinely good, my family would someday be proud. I built my career outside their orbit, legal consultant by day, foundation manager by night. I found purpose in giving back, believing that helping others defined my true worth. I thought if I succeeded in being genuinely good, my family would someday be proud. How did their ultimate rejection, the Christmas exile, prove that all my efforts were ultimately in vain? Instead of praise, I got criticism. Dad called my charity work a nice little hobby, but not real money. Mom asked why I couldn't just be happy like Jake, who was selling houses and driving a Lexus. My life's work was deemed worthless. The Christmas rejection was the final, undeniable proof. It wasn't about travel or timing, it was the ultimate dismissal. No matter how successful, responsible, or kind I was, I would never be enough for them. How did I decide to fight back against this emotional pain, and why did I throw myself into my work just days after being disowned? I threw myself into my work, trying to numb the pain. I reviewed legal documents until 2 a.m., focusing on complex clauses and charitable fund disbursements. Anything to avoid the cold silence left by my mother's text. My productivity skyrocketed, driven by pure, icy determination. My apartment became a temporary prison of professional duty. I wasn't healing, I was escaping. I was proving my worth to strangers through my foundation projects because the people who mattered most had already decided I had none. What was the most painful, dismissive comment they ever made about my life's work? Family gatherings were agonizing replays of the same script. When I mentioned launching a successful legal aid project, Dad would say, "That's nice, but did you hear about Jake's new sales bonus? Now that's impact." My efforts were consistently miniaturized next to his alleged grand achievements. The Christmas exile felt like the ultimate, public dismissal. It proved the narrative: I was expendable. They didn't see me as a person, I was just a reliable, wealthy background element, easily cut from the frame when inconvenient. Who was Eleanor, and why was a law firm suddenly trying to reach me privately? It was 2 days after the Christmas exile text. I was drowning in work when my phone displayed a number I didn't recognize, a law office in Albany. The paralegal insisted on speaking to Audrey Hayes privately about a highly confidential family matter. I immediately felt a shift. This wasn't Dad needing an accounting loophole or Jake needing a loan. This was about Eleanor, my late grandmother, the only one who ever truly saw me. For the first time, I felt something beneath the surface shifting in my favor. Eleanor saw me, but what could a law office possibly want with me, the family's invisible consultant, especially when the rest of them were expecting a massive inheritance? The attorney's words were a shock. He said, "Your grandmother, Eleanor, trusted you above all others in the family." I heard his sincerity. She hadn't forgotten me. She saw past the surface and recognized the kindness and integrity my own parents dismissed as mere hobbies. That conversation was a balm. Finally, someone validated my worth. It gave me a new kind of inner strength, a quiet, powerful happiness. And what kind of inheritance was hidden in a secret trust that my parents, who expected everything, knew nothing about? I spent the next few days preparing emotionally. I looked at old photos of Grandma Eleanor, her quiet, knowing smile. I thought the will might bring closure, a final acknowledgement of my worth that my parents refused to give. It was a strange mix of excitement and deep sadness. Meanwhile, I knew my parents and Jake were silently expecting the large Vermont house and Eleanor's savings. They'd already mentally budgeted it. I felt a surge of anxiety, knowing that whatever the will held, it was about to create an explosion in their perfect, curated world. I wasn't focused on the money. I was imagining the letter, the explanation. I wanted the truth about the family's twisted dynamics. Even if it hurt. I was ready to face the fact that the life I knew was fundamentally a lie. I was braced for the truth, but while I was privately preparing for the will reading, my family was publicly making sure I knew exactly where I stood. What was the final, humiliating post they made about their perfect family time? I made the mistake of checking social media. There it was, a photo of Dad and Mom and Jake, all smiling radiantly by the tree. Mom's caption read, "Perfect family time. So blessed to have everything we need, right here." The sheer hypocrisy was breathtaking. They weren't just excluding me privately, they were performing the exclusion publicly, erasing my existence from their narrative. That photo was a slap in the face, confirming that to them, I was utterly invisible, a mistake they were happy to crop out. I felt a collapse of my final hopes for reconciliation. I closed the app. The humiliation cut deeper than the initial rejection. But in that pain, a cold clarity set in. No more chasing their approval. No more begging for love that was never genuine. I was done being their supporting actress. They thought I was gone for good, leaving them free to inherit everything. They didn't know that on the day they posted that photo, I was hours away from receiving a secret, life-changing will that would expose every single lie they'd ever told. I reached a zero moment. The pain didn't disappear, but the desperation did. I accepted that they were never going to change, and their love was conditional, based on their needs. That realization was my first step toward true self-reliance. I decided I would spend Christmas alone and create my own traditions. I bought a small, imperfect tree, decorated it with meaningful ornaments, and planned to volunteer at a shelter on Christmas Day. I reclaimed the holiday from their toxicity. No more chasing their approval. No more begging for a seat at a table that was never truly mine. That space, that energy, now belonged to me. I was cutting the ties of emotional dependence, replacing fear with cold, hard resolve. The will reading was approaching. Regardless of the outcome, whether it brought closure or more drama, I knew one thing for certain: my future was mine. This was my personal declaration of independence, signed not with a pen, but with my peace. My peace was secured, but the explosion in their perfect world was imminent. Would the reading of Eleanor's secret trust bring the ultimate justice I deserved, or would it just be the start of a whole new war? I reached a zero moment. The pain didn't disappear, but the desperation did. I accepted that they were never going to change, and their love was conditional, based on their needs. That realization was my first step toward true self-reliance. I decided I would spend Christmas alone and create my own traditions. I bought a small, imperfect tree, decorated it with meaningful ornaments, and planned to volunteer at a shelter on Christmas Day. I reclaimed the holiday from their toxicity. No more chasing their approval. No more begging for a seat at a table that was never truly mine. That space, that energy, now belonged to me. I was cutting the ties of emotional dependence, replacing fear with cold, hard resolve. The will reading was approaching. Regardless of the outcome, whether it brought closure or more drama, I knew one thing for certain: my future was mine. This was my personal declaration of independence, signed not with a pen, but with my peace. My peace was secured, but the explosion in their perfect world was imminent. Would the reading of Eleanor's secret trust bring the ultimate justice I deserved? Or would it just be the start of a whole new war? Mr. Thompson handed me an envelope. Inside was a handwritten letter from Eleanor. It wasn't about money, it was about love. She started, "My dearest Audrey, I always saw your strength. I saw the kindness they dismissed." That simple line was the validation I had spent 30 years begging my parents for. She wrote that she specifically set up the trust because she knew I would use the resources to help others, not just myself. "You are the only Hayes who understands that the greatest wealth is compassion," she penned. It wasn't just a fortune, it was a mandate, a belief in my character. I broke down right there in the sterile office. Not from grief, but from relief. The pain of years of rejection was being washed away by one sincere voice. Eleanor's legacy wasn't just financial, it was the ultimate, unconditional love I had always searched for. I felt loved, finally, completely. But the bitter reality was that my family's betrayal suddenly made sense. What dark, shocking truth did I realize about their love when I understood they had lost everything? I was a wealthy woman. The house, the liquid assets, it was more than I'd ever dreamed of. But the success tasted metallic. I realized the scale of the financial hole my parents and Jake had dug for themselves, having banked entirely on Eleanor's estate. Suddenly, their years of subtle cruelty, the constant comparison to Jake, and the ultimate Christmas exile made agonizing sense. It wasn't just that they didn't love me, it was that they didn't value anything I was doing unless it served their immediate financial gain. I had won the financial battle, but the victory was bittersweet. The inheritance confirmed my value to Eleanor, yet it simultaneously confirmed the complete emptiness of my relationship with my immediate family. I felt a profound sense of loneliness, mourning the family I wished I had. The truth was out, and it hurt more than I expected. But the deepest betrayal was yet to be fully revealed, the part where Eleanor explicitly told me why she had to hide the truth from my own mother and father. Eleanor's letter contained the ultimate betrayal. She explained she had to hide the entire trust from my parents because she knew they would manipulate me out of the assets. "They would use your compassion against you, my dear," she wrote. I felt sick. The words confirmed my darkest fear. They didn't cut me off before Christmas because I was inconvenient. They cut me off because they didn't need me anymore, thinking they had the inheritance secured. I stared at the paper, thinking, everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. They had openly humiliated me, fully believing I was powerless and worthless. Their cruelty was not just emotional, it was a calculated, greedy maneuver to erase the daughter they didn't need before securing their fortune. The Christmas exile was an act of pure financial spite. The balance of power had violently flipped. How long did it take for word of the inheritance to leak? And what desperate lengths did my family go to when they realized their worthless daughter was now their only lifeline? Eleanor's letter contained the ultimate betrayal. She explained she had to hide the entire trust from my parents because she knew they would manipulate me out of the assets. "They would use your compassion against you, my dear," she wrote. I felt sick. The words confirmed my darkest fear. They didn't cut me off before Christmas because I was inconvenient. They cut me off because they didn't need me anymore, thinking they had the inheritance secured. I stared at the paper, thinking, everything I thought I knew about my family was a lie. They had openly humiliated me, fully believing I was powerless and worthless. Their cruelty was not just emotional, it was a calculated, greedy maneuver to erase the daughter they didn't need before securing their fortune. The Christmas exile was an act of pure financial spite. The balance of power had violently flipped. How long did it take for word of the inheritance to leak, and what desperate lengths did my family go to when they realized their worthless daughter was now their only lifeline? 2 days after Christmas, my phone exploded. It seems the lawyer finally informed my father about the minor inheritance, but the lack of the large estate had them frantic. First, an urgent text from Dad, "We need to talk." "Call me now," I ignored it. Next was Mom, who skipped the financial talk and went straight to emotional manipulation. Her text, "Audrey, how could you let this happen to your poor father? Your brother is devastated. We are a family." The irony was suffocating. Where was this family sentiment when they cut me off 10 days before the holiday? Now, suddenly, they needed me. Their fear was palpable, and I realized how profoundly the power dynamic had shifted. I was silent. Then came Jake's message, the most telling of all. He didn't ask about me. He wrote, "You have to share the trust. I need that money for my new mortgage and boat. Don't be selfish, Audrey." Family supports family. The contrast between their cold Christmas exile and their desperate pleas was breathtaking. They hadn't wanted me at their holiday table, but they absolutely wanted my inheritance money in their bank accounts. Their cruelty was now clearly framed by their greed. I looked at my phone, now buzzing with multiple calls. I felt no sorrow, only deep revulsion. My decision was final. I wasn't going to engage in their drama. My only response would be the permanent silence they had taught me. I simply texted Mr. Thompson, "Handle any family inquiries. I will not be responding to them." This placed a professional barrier between their frantic need and my newfound peace. The game had changed, and I was holding all the cards. They thought their desperation would make me crack. They thought wrong. How did I use my immense new wealth to execute a final, subtle act of revenge that perfectly mirrored their own cruelty? Mr. Thompson had quietly informed me that Jake wasn't just buying a new boat, he was deeply in debt, leveraging his future sales bonuses. Dad had co-signed everything, putting the family's assets at risk. They desperately needed Eleanor's money to bail Jake out. I was never simply the responsible one, I was the contingency plan. Their years of dismissing me and praising Jake were designed to keep me emotionally dependent, so I would obediently step in as the financial savior when Jake inevitably failed. That was the true, ugly truth. My worth to them was calculated purely by my utility as a safety net. The revelation solidified my resolve. There was nothing left to mourn, only a clear path forward built on my own success and Eleanor's foresight. They planned for me to be their savior, but I chose my peace instead. Now, it was time for the final, satisfying act of revenge. What did I do with Eleanor's house, and what message did I send to my family with that final act? I used my new funds to expand my legal aid foundation, but the true revenge was more personal. I took Eleanor's beautiful Vermont home, the house my parents had mentally budgeted, and donated it to my foundation to be used as a permanent family shelter. Mr. Thompson made a formal announcement. I didn't reach out. My family heard the news the same way everyone else did, through the local charity press release. Their perfect family home, their great inheritance, was now dedicated to helping strangers. The irony was beautiful. The house that symbolized their greedy expectations now housed families who needed unconditional support. They lost the money, they lost the status, and they lost the ability to control me forever. Their Christmas exile truly cost them everything. I never spoke to David, Carol, or Jake again. My last message to them was the public announcement that their greed had fueled my charity's greatest acquisition. I walked away with my peace, my purpose, and my inheritance intact. But if you, like me, have ever been betrayed by the people who should have loved you most, you know that the greatest revenge is not anger, but a life lived brilliantly without them. What choices will you make today to build a life of purpose, regardless of what others expect? The moment they grasped the total inheritance loss, my digital life erupted. Emails, voicemails, and dozens of frantic texts flooded in. It wasn't confusion, it was primal panic, the sound of their entitled, lavish world collapsing around them. I watched it unfold, silent and unmoving. Dad's first message was pure, unadulterated fury. He didn't ask, he commanded, "You engineered this, Audrey. This is illegal manipulation. You will call me immediately and sign over the Vermont property, or I will ruin your legal career." Mom's reaction was pure theatrical betrayal. She painted me as the villain. "How could you betray us like this? After everything we did for you? You've destroyed your father. You are a disgrace to the Hayes name. This is all your fault." They tried to strategize. A joint email demanded a family meeting to discuss financial redistribution. They believed they could pressure me physically, but Mr. Thompson's firm sent a polite, ironclad refusal citing the trust's legal terms. Jake's texts were the most pathetic, laced with entitlement. He reminded me of his new boat loan and my responsibility as his sister. "Eleanor always said family helps family. You're being selfish, Audrey. Don't be the reason I lose everything." My silence was my greatest defense. Every call went to voicemail, every text was ignored. I let Mr. Thompson build an impenetrable legal fortress around me, insulating my peace from their toxic desperation. The last desperate plea was from Mom. "Your grandmother was clearly confused when she signed those documents. She loved Jake best. Think about your poor parents spending Christmas alone because of your career." That final text didn't sting, it confirmed the core truth. Their love was a transaction. Now that the transaction was failing, they abandoned the pretense of kindness. I felt a cold, satisfying resolve. No more guilt. They discarded me as an inconvenient daughter, believing I was worthless. Now, the person they despised was the sole barrier between them and financial disaster. The irony was the greatest, most satisfying form of revenge. What is the most important piece of advice I can share with anyone struggling with family betrayal? And what did I realize about the real meaning of Eleanor's house? The noise wasn't just coming from the core family. Suddenly, I started hearing from distant cousins and family friends. They had obviously heard Mom's and Dad's version, a narrative painting me as the heartless, greedy daughter who stole the inheritance. The messages were full of moralizing and guilt-tripping. "Audrey, your parents gave you everything. You owe them this." One cousin even wrote, "Think of poor Jake, he has a boat payment." I realized these people were easily manipulated because they only saw status and money. I didn't engage in long arguments. My response to most of these attempts was simple, calm, and final: "This is a private, legal matter handled by my attorney. I wish you well." No explanation, no defense. Just an impenetrable boundary. Their reaction was exactly why Eleanor acted in secret. She knew their voices, and the voices of their flying monkeys, would overwhelm me with guilt. But the power of her truth was stronger than their unified lie. I no longer feared their judgment. Their noise faded, replaced by my own purpose. But what final, crucial lesson did I learn about setting boundaries, and how did I use Eleanor's wisdom to reshape my entire future? I sold my small apartment and bought a quiet house near the city. It wasn't the ostentatious Vermont estate, it was my sanctuary. I decorated it with things I loved, not things designed to impress. I created a life where my only audience was myself. Eleanor's trust became the engine for my legal aid foundation, providing genuine help to families facing financial abuse. I used the money to create the exact opposite of the toxicity I grew up with, a place of unconditional support. My work wasn't just a job, it was my therapy. Every client I helped was a small act of self-healing. I was proving Eleanor right: the greatest wealth truly is compassion. My greatest joy was watching others find their own strength. As for the Hayes family, Mr. Thompson kept me passively informed. Dad lost the co-signed assets. Jake lost his boat. They had to sell their big house, but thankfully, not the family home I grew up in. They got what they deserved. They tried one last time to sue, but the trust was bulletproof. After that, they faded into the background, becoming distant memories. I established zero contact, not out of spite, but out of self-respect. My peace was non-negotiable. The greatest lesson wasn't about the money. It was this: you cannot heal in the environment that made you sick. The only way to win against emotional abuse is to build a life so strong, so fulfilling, that their absence is a relief, not a wound. Eleanor's true gift was not the fortune, but the permission to leave. She gave me the legal and financial resources to walk away from people who were never going to see me. She gave me the freedom to choose my own family, based on shared values. I often think of that Christmas exile text. It wasn't the end of a relationship, it was the beginning of my own life. I am no longer defined by their rejection, but by my purpose and the peace I fought to secure. My story is one of freedom. If you are trapped in a toxic cycle, remember this: your greatest revenge is your peace. What toxic ties are you ready to cut today to build your own sanctuary and finally start living for yourself? The frantic calls and emails eventually stopped. Their desperate pleas dried up when they realized the legal wall was unbreachable. The silence was deafening at first, but soon it became my greatest comfort, the sound of freedom. I spent time reflecting on Eleanor. Her love was the blueprint. It was a love that anticipated my needs and protected my future, even from her own son and daughter-in-law. She taught me that true family sees your soul, not your wallet. My parents' love, conversely, was a conditional contract. As long as I was available to serve their narrative or their financial needs, I was tolerated. The moment I became inconvenient or financially independent, I was discarded. I went through my old photos, not with anger, but with clinical detachment. I deleted every family picture, not to erase the past, but to acknowledge that the people in those photos no longer existed in my present reality. My social circle slowly changed. I found new friends, people who celebrated my success without expectation and supported my mission without judgment. They became my chosen family, built on respect, not blood or bank accounts. The Hayes name became irrelevant. I didn't change my last name, but the meaning behind it shifted. It no longer represented a chain of obligation, but a springboard from which I launched my true life and purpose. Letting go wasn't passive. It was the ultimate act of power. I consciously chose emotional freedom over the false hope of reconciliation. When you stop chasing people who don't want you, you free yourself to run towards those who do. The final image I held of them was the Christmas photo they posted, smiling, oblivious, and excluding me. I now look at that photo and feel only pity. They thought they had everything. In truth, they lost the one person who cared about connection more than cash. The old ties faded not because I cut them violently, but because they had no real substance left. True love isn't demanding, it's giving. And when people show you their true values, believe them and build a future based on yours. The ties are gone, the money is used for good, and the peace is secured. But if you could send one final message back to your former self, who was trapped and hurting, what would be the single most powerful thing you would tell her about her own worth? I often start my day at the office, watching the city wake up. This view, unlike the suffocating walls of the old family estate, feels boundless. It symbolizes the open future I have built, brick by brick, not with inherited entitlement, but with hard-earned purpose. Success isn't measured by the house you keep or the people you impress. It's measured by the depth of your inner peace. My metrics are simple now. Did I help someone today? Did I stay true to Eleanor's compassion? Did I protect my non-negotiable peace? Looking back, the pain they inflicted wasn't a curse, it was a catalyst. It gave me the fire to break free and the empathy to fight for others. I wouldn't trade the hard-won freedom for the illusion of belonging they once offered. Their legacy was one of entitled greed and quiet desperation. My new legacy, built on Eleanor's final act of defiance, is one of empowerment and unconditional support. The contrast is stark, and I choose my path every single day. The inheritance wasn't my salvation, it was my anchor. It gave me the financial freedom not just to leave, but to stay gone, without the fear of being pulled back by economic necessity. Money, when used with compassion, is a powerful tool for justice. To anyone watching, my ultimate advice is this: believe people when they show you who they are. When my family showed me that money mattered more than my well-being, I finally believed them. That belief set me free. Last Christmas, I volunteered. This year, my chosen family, my friends and foundation colleagues, will share a quiet, joyous dinner in my home. We will create traditions built on genuine care, not forced obligation. That is what a true holiday feels like. People ask if I regret not having a louder, more dramatic revenge. The answer is no. True revenge isn't tearing others down, it's elevating yourself to a place where their entire existence becomes irrelevant to your happiness. I no longer look for validation outside myself. Eleanor taught me I was worthy. My foundation shows me I am needed. My peace confirms I am whole. This new chapter is not a reaction to the past, but a beautiful, powerful choice for the future. What is the one courageous step you need to take today to finally put yourself first? The time to build your new chapter, based on your own worth and your non-negotiable peace, is right now. If you've stuck with me through this story, chances are you understand what it's like to be the inconvenient one. You know the exhausting pressure of trying to earn love from people determined to misunderstand you. I want you to internalize this: your worth is not up for debate. You don't need external validation, especially from those who use your kindness as a tool. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself is leave. Use your pain not as a burden, but as the raw material for building your new life. What do you truly value? Compassion? Integrity? Build your world around those values. Create your own family, your own sanctuary, your own legacy. For many, the toxic tie is economic. Eleanor's gift gave me the leverage to escape. If you don't have that leverage, start building it. Every dollar saved, every boundary set, is a step towards your non-negotiable freedom. If this story resonated, hit like and subscribe. Join the conversation below. What was the one moment you realized you had to put your own peace first? Share your thoughts, and let's support each other in building lives that truly reflect our worth. We've covered betrayal, wealth, and the ultimate revenge of peace. In the next video, I'm sharing the 3 non-negotiable boundaries you must set immediately to protect your healing journey. Which boundary do you think is the hardest to set, and why?